Disruption Networks. Easy Radio. Disruption Networks.
Illegal?
Maybe.
Just to copy it right off from. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
So, like, how does Weird Al Yankovic get away with it?
Well, he asked for permission from the.
Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah.
There's
Okay.
a fair use doctrine.
See, we got a lawyer in the house too. We're gonna
That's what I'm
get
talking about.
legal in this situation.
Sure,
I
sure.
love it. Before we do get into anything, much love to the sponsors. Thank you so much to the EJA Moving Services, the professional movers. When you're ready to move and relocate, hit up Eddie and his fine staff over at EJA and have them do all the work for you. They pack up your boxes, they give you the boxes for free, and they'll bring you pretty much wherever your boxes need to go. So give them a shout today, 315-335-0516. Thank you, Eddie. I love you for all that you do for us at the D. And also shout out to Dave Longaretta, my attorney. Give him a call today if you need legal advice, 315-735-6162. Shout out to Utica Coffee. Today we are drinking a blend. And the blend today is Art of Darkness with the blueberry. And let me tell you, it's high octane.
I'm going to be up for 3 days, guaranteed.
Well, you got a gig tonight.
I know.
So
That's why I
perfect.
did this. You said it was high test. I'm like, sign me up.
It's Wake the Hell Up Blueberry mixed with the Art of Darkness, which they both are really high in caffeine, and you can feel it. So, Mark, you're not going to be able to sleep tonight either.
Oh, that's fine.
That's fine.
Tastes great. Really does.
Yeah, absolutely. They do a fine product over there at Utica Coffee. So wakethehellup.com. You can find them online. And shout out to Saranac Brewery as well. Justin Smith saying Local Music Monday. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit upset. You know, my Bills didn't win yesterday, but
Tough
what a
game.
great season. You know, I look at a lot of these teams that'll be unnamed. That all their fans are like, you know, it's the ref's fault, or it's this person's fault, or this fault.
Always an
You
excuse.
look at pictures of the Bills afterwards, like Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen are hugging each other. Everybody's like, we'll get them next year. You know, great. You know, this is awesome. Our team was great this year, and I'm like, man, that's awesome. I'm so glad to be a Bills fan right now, like just for that simple fact. I mean, they took it in stride, man. Just happy to be here. You know, happy to be at the championship game.
Yeah, they played good all year.
Yeah, they
just
did.
kind of fizzled out yesterday, and you could see the inexperience of Josh Allen towards the end of that game.
Well, yeah, and that's what I think. You know, like we were talking earlier, I think just you're going to see it's going to be a force to reckon with Josh Allen in the NFL. Just
Oh yeah,
I mean, for the rest of his career, he's
Yeah.
just going to be dominant. But
Yep.
you know, and that's great. I mean, the guy goes to the championship game. I mean, what else do you need besides the Super Bowl? What else do you need to like teach yourself and become experienced? You know, he's experienced almost all of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is this third year?
Third year, yeah.
Third year, huge.
Yep. Yeah, it was like the first year he threw 10 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Second year he threw 20. This year he threw 40.
Amazing.
That means he'll throw 80 next year. I like it. I'm down with that. Oh, you're focusing, aren't you?
No, I'm sorry. Something just went haywire over here. Stupid computer day.
Oh, all right.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
You know how my life is.
Yes, I do. That's why I'm calling you out on it. I'm like, what's going on, man? You my help?
I want to thank everybody that voted for us for the Sammys.
Yes.
Coming up, the Sweet 16 is coming up tomorrow. I think they make the announcement.
Oh, boy.
So hopefully we make that final cut. Well, the final 16 cut.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody that's been voting for us. And thank you to whoever nominated us for Local Music Monday. And we'll be announcing it if we do make the cut tomorrow and sharing it out for everybody. And the People's Choice Awards, we're up for it. Can you believe it? It's something that just kind of happened on a whim.
Yeah.
And now we're nominated for a Sammy.
Right.
Kind of weird. Here we are.
I never thought I would be nominated for a Sammy for anything else other than Showtime.
Have you tried, though?
Huh?
Have you tried Showtime?
Showtime, we made it to, I think, with the Final Four.
Did you?
Like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah.
I can't see why you guys haven't won a Sammy yet. I don't know. No love for Utica out in Cuse.
That's why we need.
That's why we got to win it.
But that's why we need in Utica. What do we need in Utica?
The Local Music Hall of
That's
Fame.
what I'm talking about. Right.
Justin, Local Music Monday, introduce our guest.
The wonderful Mark Barnes
Yes.
over here from Plastic Soul fame, which is where I first met you. And
Long time.
Same
ago.
here.
Long time.
you know,
ago.
so I would love to know your story and what you did before that, and you know, let's let everybody get to know
or
you.
how Plastic Soul came to be.
Sure.
How about before Plastic
Yeah,
Soul?
before
Because
that,
him and I, we met you during Plastic Soul,
Yeah.
and neither one of us know your history prior to that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, I started playing music back in the 70s. My first official band gig was July 4th, 1974.
Wow.
In Hamilton, New York. I was 13 years old. I started out as a keyboard player.
Oh, cool.
I didn't pick up the guitar until I was 16 or 17. And then got bands together during high school, and then 1981 had kind of one long-running band called the Loomis Gang.
Nice.
That went for about 15 years, and that kept me busy all through college and law school.
Was that kind of like a classic rock, outlaw, country type?
Well, we did everything.
You did?
I mean, we played everything from Hank Williams to the Sex Pistols.
Oh, wow.
And depending, because we'd have weekends, we'd play 5 times over the course of a weekend. We play Friday night, we play Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, then during a graduation party season, Sunday afternoon, and then Sunday night, and it was.
Wow.
So you had to be ready for everything, and we liked all the different music. It was a 3-piece band, and I seem to have played in a lot of 3-piece bands. Over the
Yeah,
years, you know.
sure.
You're the Mr. Power Trio.
Well, yeah, it was kind of you kind of learned by doing that you had to fill up a lot of sonic space, and
Right.
you know, I never became a great accomplished lead player or anything, but you had to kind of do a lot and come up with different sounds to pull off songs, and I've always had fun doing that.
Were you gigging in high school and then showing up to class the next morning?
Towards the end of high school. So when I turned 18 when I was in high school, and the drinking age in New York was 18, so I could play in bars, and I did that, before graduation. But it was a different time. It really
Yeah.
was. Yeah. But a fun time, and back then, when the drinking age was 18, every bar had a band. Every place was packed. Every Friday night, every Saturday, you could play as much as you wanted to. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome.
More venues back then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This seems to be the running thing when we talk to everybody here.
Yeah.
Just with so many places to play back then, and just I can't even imagine. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
You know?
it was really something. And the thing that was weird is that back then, if you made $50 or $100 a night, that was a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, for sure.
In 1980, for a college student or whatever. But yeah, I was with that group, mostly through the 80s and into the 90s. And then, I got married, I had kids, and life changed a little bit. And, I never stopped gigging, but, I did certainly a lot less often.
Right.
And
You were practicing law too. So how were you?
yeah, I was practicing. Yeah, in the
Were you
meantime, I went
gigging
to law school.
and going to school at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
In law school, I played at the Hotel Syracuse for our law school, annual bash. That was fun.
Nice.
And but then I started to my interest in the Beatles, which had always been there since I was a kid. My first album I got in probably 1966 was the Beatles' Yesterday and Today. And I spun that thing. You remember those little? You guys are probably too young to remember, but they had what they called a show and tell player. General Electric made it back in the day, and my grandfather worked for General Electric back in the 60s here in Utica. So we always had the latest and greatest of what GE had to offer at Christmas time.
That's awesome.
And
So cool.
they had this thing called the show and tell player, and it was like looked like a TV set,
Yes,
and then
I
they had a
remember that.
record player on the top of it,
Yep.
and they'd sell you these like film strips or slides that you could put in there, and they'd go in and it would tell a story on the record. So we were playing Beatles records on that thing, and that really, I guess, indoctrinated me into that, along with millions of other people.
Yeah.
Were you completely obsessed with the Beatles right from that point on?
There was a lot of it I hadn't heard. And it kind of, waxed and waned over the years, your interest in it. And then somebody gave me one, the White Album that came out in 1968, all white, of course, just said the Beatles on it. Double album.
Yep.
And it was a cousin of mine, same one I bought my first guitar from, gave me one album. You found it laying in a garage somewhere. No sleeve, no cover, just one album. It was side 1 and 2 of the White Album. I listened to that thing. I never heard 3 and 4 for probably another 5 or 6 years. But,
Really?
yeah. But anyways, I got really interested in the Beatles at an early age, and then around 1999 or so, I started to get the fever, for playing out again a lot, and I didn't even have a guitar amp at the time. I had a Les Paul electric guitar that I bought in 1981. But I was thinking, what am I going to buy for an? I got to have a Vox. I've got to have a Vox amp because that's what the Beatles played.
Exactly.
Early on, anyway. They played Fenders probably as much as anything,
sure.
but early on, that was the most recognizable gear that they used, and. So I went out and bought one. Then I started researching it. Then the internet was starting to kick up in these chat rooms and online forums. So I was researching Vox. How can you make it sound better? How do you play this like the Beatles? How do you make this sound? And through all that, I came in contact with this community of people throughout the whole world. And I ended up in 2001, in August it was. I went over to England and flew into London and took a train up to Liverpool, and it was International Beatle Week at the time.
The ultimate pilgrimage.
Yeah, and before that, I had been to a couple of cousins I have in Waterville, Jim Barnes and Ray Barnes, really accomplished musicians. I had played a lot of Beatles music with them beforehand, and got over to England, and they had all these tribute bands. Went to the Cavern Club, and people from all over the world. Some of them were, all girls from, Venezuela, or these guys from Finland, and I just sat there all day long for days on end and watched these bands come in and out. And the real reason I had gone over there is online I had come to know this Beatles tribute band from Akron, Ohio, called 1964 The Tribute, and ended up becoming, great friends with a couple of those guys, and flew over there to see their sold-out show in Liverpool, and I didn't have a ticket. So I was in the hotel in Liverpool, and Gary Grimes, who played Paul McCartney in that band, who sadly passed away a few years ago, Gary drove over to the hotel to deliver a ticket.
Wow.
And
that's clout.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I went to the show, and it was fabulous. Just that whole experience and the vibe of going around Liverpool, going across the Matthew Street to the pub where the same pub where the Beatles used to hang out, and they had a bench there. Oh, that's where they would come in and they'd have their pint after they played or whatever, and it was great. So on the flight home from Heathrow to JFK, I just kept thinking to myself, I can do this. I can do this. And I thought about it and what kind of personnel are we going to put together, here locally to try to do this. And I had a built-in Beatles band with my two cousins, and they came up with the idea of bringing John Smales in. And they knew John. I had seen John play out, but I wasn't acquainted, never met him.
Right.
And it was strange because I was initially opposed to the idea because I I guess maybe, not knowing anything, but some aspects, I guess, of John's earlier wilder reputation had preceded him in some way, and it kind of made up my mind. No, I don't know if I'm going to like this guy or not. So John shows up initially to play guitar, and he and I hit it off immediately, and it was just great, singing together and playing instruments together. But John was playing guitar at the time, and he told me later, he said, when I came to that first practice, he said, I know I was playing guitar, he said, but I couldn't take my eye off that bass. He said, I really wanted to play those bass parts on a Hofner guitar, a Hofner bass guitar. So he went out and bought one. Oh, wow. And just kind of as things went on with this configuration and rehearsing this Beatles music, my cousin Jim had dropped out of the project, and then it was Smales on bass, me on guitar, and Ray Barnes on drums. And then, as things went on, Ray dropped out, and it wasn't too long before we had a gig scheduled. And I called up Smales and I said, you know, I don't know what we're going to do about this gig because, you know, who can we bring in that can possibly play all those drum parts and also sing all the harmonies because there's only going to be 3 of us.
Yeah.
And Smales said, he said, there's only one person in the world that can come in here and do that. It says, John Liebing. I said, John Liebing. I said, I thought he was a guitar
Yeah,
player.
right.
And he plays drums too. And I was, okay, I'll trust your judgment. So we arranged a rehearsal over at Liebing's place in Marcy, and walked in there. And John had his drums all set up. He has a little recording studio in there, so he's all good to go. And set up our instruments and. Smales had been in touch with him beforehand, giving him a set list to practice.
Yeah.
So we hit that first chord and started singing together, and it was like, I mean, the hair stood up on the back of my neck.
Oh, yeah.
I had never, you know, sung with a group like that, and it was special. And we looked at each other and said, we might have something here.
Nice.
So.
And it was magical, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember the first time I heard you guys, I'm like, I'd heard this trio doing Beatles music, and I'm like, how do you do Beatles music without 4 people?
Right.
You know, I'm like, I immediately was like, well, Liebing's involved, and I know him. I don't know the other 2, but I know Liebing, so it's got to be a pretty decent project. I'm thinking to myself. And I heard you guys, and the same thing happened the very first time I heard you guys. Like, the hair on my arms stood up. It was like, it really was. It was quite an experience for me.
Do you remember where that was?
Oh, it had to be the EC.
Was it?
Yeah, it had to be the EC. That's the only place I could think of because, and I think that it was for something where we were playing with you, like on the same bill as you guys, or something for like a TV show.
Yes, it was.
for
The cancer thing?
The cancer thing.
Yeah, what was that called? Something for Life or
Concert series for life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So I think that was the first time I
You
actually
got a
got
good
to hear you
memory.
guys.
I think I still have a T-shirt somewhere from that.
Well, here's the funny thing that what I could be saying right now could be a complete lie, only because of the fact that I am holding my memory to this right now. But I mean, honestly, it could have been a whole bunch of different things. But that's where I think was the first time I saw you guys.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
And we
Because-
did
yeah.
we did share a couple of bills together. We played for, well, I think there were 2 benefits. We played for a benefit down in the valley. Big place. I think you guys, Showtime used to play there a lot.
Silverado?
The Silverado, the Marine Corps, VFW, Herkimer, Glory Days.
I think it could have been Glory Days.
I bet you it was Glory Days.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was big. It was in the back room. Like,
Right.
you walked through the whole place, and then
Right.
in the back there was that big banquet hall.
Yeah.
That was Glory Days.
And then we did another benefit together, and that was it the Manicore?
Ooh.
I remember it because it was that was a Sunday, and I didn't have my regular guitars because I had shipped them to Florida because we had a gig in Orlando on Tuesday night, so they were gone. So I was playing this big orange Gretsch,
Yep.
you know, the Beatles music on it. But yeah,
You're a big collector, huh, of instruments? Don't you?
yeah,
Yeah. And is it more a Beatle collection, or is it just like a personal collection, or
it's
what do you fancy?
Well, for the longest time, I owned 2 guitars. I owned a beautiful Les Paul that I bought brand new at Nicotera's Music on Lansing Street.
Shout out Rosemary.
1980
Love that
Rosemary.
woman.
She was
Art,
wonderful.
That guy was a
That's
legend.
where I got my first guitar too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same here.
And I think I bought it. I mean, Art was there then, but I bought it from Rosemary. And
She was such a sweet woman.
oh yeah.
She's still with us, though. She's down in Florida.
Oh really?
Yeah, they moved.
Yeah, they sold everything.
Yeah, she was always great. But I had that, and I had this old beat up acoustic guitar that I won in a card game. I was playing poker one night.
Were you playing the Honky Tonk Man?
Yeah. Well, one of the guys I was playing with, who was
out of
also a
cash?
musician, was out of cash, and I happened to be doing pretty well that night. And he
Do we know this guy?
no, I'm not going to mention his
There we go. All right.
He but he said, I need $25 in chips. He says, I got an acoustic guitar. I'll trade you for $25 in chips. I said, yep, all right, there you go. And I've had the thing ever since.
Nice.
And now that guitar, I have it actually strung up in Nashville tuning, if you're familiar
Yep.
with that.
Oh yeah.
Nashville tuning is where you take the high strings of a 12-string guitar and put them on an acoustic guitar. So you play it, and it's all just, high notes
Yeah,
playing.
jingly. Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. It's a trick that a lot of recording artists will use. You'll hear a record and say, oh wow, they're using a 12-string. Well, no, they're mixing a Nashville tuned guitar in with other guitars. They claim that I've heard claims that a lot of Tom Petty's records, of course, Tom Petty was famous, for using a Rickenbacker 12-string. That Tom actually had a Telecaster strung in Nashville tuning that was used on a lot of those records. That
Really?
passed as a 12-string.
Wow. Now,
Who
do
knows?
you have a 12-string Rick?
Yeah, I
You
do.
Because I heard that they're notoriously hard to play, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the normal 12 strings are like it goes the high string, then the low string, or
Yeah.
high string, then the low string, but the Rick is the
Ricks are
opposite
strung
way.
different.
So it's the low string, then the high string, so it's harder to play.
Yeah.
And I've never played one before. I've always wanted to play one just to hear it, and because the first thing I would do for my own personal well-being is play Mr. Tambourine Man with the Byrds version.
Right.
Just that wait, I was singing Ticket to Ride, but how does that go, Mr. Tambourine?
Da, 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 da,
Yeah, that was.
in the key of D.
Yep,
Yes.
yep. And he was so famous for playing that guitar too. It's so funny because that was kind of his shtick,
Yeah.
But-
yeah. I shopped forever for I wanted, and that's you asked about how I got into collecting. I managed without all these guitars, but if I was going to play in a Beatles band, you needed to have
Yeah, you got to.
Beatley guitar, because not only to reproduce the sounds, but it's
look as
It's
well.
part of the spectacle.
Yeah,
right.
It's
Sure.
part of the show. Say, well, you bring 7-8 guitars out to a gig. Yeah, because people show up to see a Beatles band. They see all those guitars. They go, oh yeah, I mean, it's.
That was John's guitar. That
they
was
were
George's
props,
guitar. Yeah, exactly.
As much as.
Can you
as
imagine them
tools.
showing up with a Jackson guitar?
Yeah, right.
Like
A
Beatles band,
pointy
you know what I mean?
guitar.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a flying V.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you mentioned the 12-string, and that was probably the hardest one to acquire.
Really?
Because there's not a lot of them out there, and they tend to be crazy expensive.
Yeah.
On the market. And I kind of knew what I wanted to spend on one, and I knew what I wanted in terms of the shading and all this stuff. So again, getting back, I had mentioned about getting involved with this community of Beatles musicians from around the world. I ended up, the website that I used to go to commune with all these people, I ended up buying it in 2005, and I run it to this day. And one of the guys on the site was a lawyer in Philadelphia, and we had one of these for sale. We have a little marketplace section on the
cool.
website. So I snapped it up immediately. I paid $1,500 for it, which was a deal.
That's a steal. I was just gonna say.
So I ended up getting the thing, and I played one chord on it. I said, "This guitar sucks." I said, "It's nearly unplayable.
$1,500
Looks
for this?
great."
Yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of half expected that. So there's a friend of mine out in Seattle who used to work for Rickenbacker, a guy named Mark Arnquist, and is just a fabulous luthier. It has a business going out there, and he builds guitars from scratch, fixes them, whatever. And, there's maybe, 2 people on the planet who know as much about Rickenbacker guitars as he does. So I sent the guitar out to him and wangled a deal. I ended up putting, some significant money in it. He did like 20 different mods to this guitar, to make it play easier, widened the nut, did a full width refret, repositioned where the pickups and the bridge were. We put a 12 saddle bridge on it because they come with a 6, and there's 2 strings on each saddle.
Oh,
wow.
So you get a 12 saddle bridge, and you can intonate every
Perfect, yeah,
string
yeah.
separately.
It only comes with a 6
Yeah.
on a 12-string guitar.
And he's got these pickups on it. The pickups that I played sounded terrible. They were dark and muddy. I said, this isn't George Harrison Jangle here,
No.
fellas. So he took the pickups apart and took off fistfuls of wire. He says, and we're winding it down to this precise, ohm reading on the meter. And
That's outstanding.
I got that. And he reshaped the truss rod cover on it, that says Rickenbacker,
Yeah.
so it looked more like George Harrison's. Repositioned the knobs so it looked. So I got that thing back, and it was. I played it. I said, this was not the same instrument that I sent out there.
Yeah.
It was just fabulous. And since then, I've gotten to. You're familiar with the British invasion band, the Animals.
Yep.
Hilton Valentine, the guitar player, played, House of the Rising Sun. You hear that riff? That's him.
Yep.
And I've lent that guitar to Hilton Valentine for 3 different shows that he's done.
Wow.
And you mentioned about the strings being backwards, because that's a discussion that he and I had about
Yeah.
it. Because he got the guitar and he says, don't the strings on a 12, and the kindliest little guy, 5 foot nothing, probably, 130 pounds soaking wet, granny glasses, long haired, greatest guy you'll ever meet, greatest guy. And very humble about his playing and everything else. But he says, don't those strings go the other way on there? And it occurred to me that he probably, when he got his hands on a Rickenbacker, he probably just strung it in traditional manner.
Right.
I said, Hilton, these are how they came from the factory.
Yeah.
And I think he just strung it up the way,
He thought,
a folk
yeah.
12 string was done.
Did you have him sign it?
No, he didn't sign it, but I was pleased to guitar tech for him in 3 different shows.
So cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, not only did he use that one, I lent him my Gretsch 1967 Gretsch Tennessean, which he had a 60s Gretsch Tennessean that he played House of the Rising Sun on.
Oh, wow.
So when he stood there and played that riff on that, again, the hair standing up
Sure,
on the back
sure.
of your neck, I'm going, wow. Said, this guitar has mojo now.
That's
for
the guy. That's the guy
That's
playing the
the
song
guy.
on my guitar.
Yeah.
It's got a spirit attached
Yeah.
to it
Yeah,
now.
for sure.
So he's used that one 3 times as well, but it was
Wow.
That must have been a good pinch me moment. Like, I can't believe I'm at this moment right now in my life. Yeah.
Just the nicest guy, and to sit there and have a Newcastle with you. His favorite beer, because he's from Newcastle on Tyne.
Wow. I like that beer too. It's good beer.
You don't find it around here anymore, though. I don't know why.
It's funny, the first time I ever had it was at Glory Days in Herkimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time, because I always was curious what this brown ale beer was that was sitting in there in a little yellow bottle. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, just let me try one. And I was like, that's amazing.
It is.
Like, I can't believe I just discovered this.
Got that little caramelly.
Yeah. Yep.
Tasty, for sure.
yeah.
Definitely a tasty beer. Do you gig with that guitar at all?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do?
I gig with, people say, oh, you got these guitars. I don't have wall hangers.
Yeah.
No.
They all sit out at home. They all get played. All 3 of my sons are guitar players. So
That's awesome.
anytime I walk in the house, somebody is strumming a guitar if anybody is home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to make a fun Christmas when everybody plays guitar, sitting around the house. And
Oh,
just,
for sure.
Oh, it is. And we got the, I still got the old plastic soul drum kit, sitting in the house.
Is it on the riser, too?
No. the riser's out in the barn.
It is
So
a little
explain-
ass kit, but this big ass riser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Explain the name now. So how did you guys come up with Plastic Soul?
Oh, Plastic Soul. Yeah. It was one of those things we were thinking, what do you call a Beatles band? Because everything is, there have been so many tribute bands over the years and so many names that have been used. And there, if you listen to a bootleg recording of when the Beatles recorded the song "I'm Down," you remember that one? You tell us thinking I can't see.
Yeah.
And they get done with it. Paul ends up screaming the whole thing, and gets done at the end, and he says, "Plastic Soul, man, Plastic Soul." And what the meaning of that was, what that meant to them, is that Plastic Soul was white guys trying to play black music.
All right.
Is what it was, and it was Paul was always trying to cop Little Richard, you know?
Right.
Sure.
And so
the
that was his
that's the
effort
whole
at
thing, yeah.
Plastic Soul. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So that's where the name
Never
came
knew that.
from.
Because I always thought that name was so unique for a Beatles band because like you said, there's been so many and what they're called is always like it's a Beatles band right off the bat. But if you heard Plastic, like the name Plastic Soul, you wouldn't automatically think it was a Beatles tribute band until you saw the logo.
You see
because you see the logo and it looks just like the Beatles.
In the Bootle font.
Yes, exactly.
With the drop T and
Yep.
I thought it was a spin-off of maybe a spoof on Rubber Soul. But
yeah,
no, but
yeah, and it's funny because I'm Down. That was just a little prior to Rubber Soul.
Was it?
But yeah.
Maybe that's where it came from. The album name, just like as a joke, like based on that song. Maybe that you never know. Like how they got down to it.
There's an interesting story about Rubber Soul. If you can visualize in your mind the album cover, where it's kind of spacey almost. There's the four of them there, and their faces are elongated.
and it's blue, right?
No, it's the four of them. They're all wearing these like brown
Yes, okay.
jackets
Yep. I gotcha.
and all on the cover. And the way that came to be, and I'm sorry I can't remember the photographer's name at the moment, but they had a photo session and he took the picture, and he had the picture of the four Beatles sitting up on like a stand or an easel of some sort, and he was getting ready. He was looking at it with a camera, and all of a sudden the picture fell, and it went like this. And the camera shot, and they go, yeah, that's it. That's how we want it to look. Yeah. So
Crazy.
That's how that album cover came to be.
It's too funny.
Imagine being a Beatle.
No.
Right? Have you seen any, like, I'm sure you've seen Paul McCartney live or maybe
Yes.
Ringo Starr. Have you?
Yeah, I've seen Paul and Ringo.
Mm-hmm.
The McCartney game, he was up at the Dome.
Oh, it was a great show.
Two years ago. And
2016 or 17? No,
Yeah.
2018?
weird thing about
2018.
that, I had no intentions of going to that show. I had seen McCartney in 1989 at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
And he had a great band then, Hamish Stewart and Robbie McIntosh from the Pretenders. I mean, Stewart was from Average White Band.
Average White Band, yep.
Yeah, I thought it was their best band ever.
He was in Ringo's All-Star Band last year or the year before. Hamish was. Yep.
Yeah. So I had no intentions of going to that McCartney concert. And a friend of mine from California called me up. It was early in the morning. He must have been up half the night because I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And he said, Mark, you really ought to take your sons to that McCartney show in Syracuse. I said, yeah, I know. He says, here, I'm emailing you a code for pre-show or pre-sale or whatever, so you got a better chance of getting tickets. So I sat there at my desk at home, and I'm waiting for it to come on. I'm clicking there, and best available seats. And I ended up with 4 seats in the 4th row.
Oh, God.
They cost the king's ransom,
Sure.
but I got thinking to myself, I was sitting there over a cup of coffee, I'm going, I never took my kids to Disneyland. I said, this is better than Disneyland.
Absolutely.
For sure it is.
So, so I got the tickets, and the 4 of us went up, and my 3 sons, by osmosis and through their own efforts, are huge Beatle fans too. And we just had the most wonderful time. And as it turned out, some guys I knew, you may remember a band from Syracuse way back called the Flash Cubes and Screen Test, and
Nope.
Gary Frenet and Artie Lennon and those guys, both Sammy guys.
Yeah.
They were doing a pre-show concert in front of the Sheridan, the University Sheridan there.
Mm-hmm.
And I got asked to come up and play a couple Beatles songs. So I took my guitar up there, and it was fun. So I went up there, played a couple Beatles songs in front of this, huge throng of people, and it was such a beautiful day, September day.
Yep.
Sunny, warm. Then go back to the guitar, or go back to the truck, throw the guitar in there, and then walk up and see McCartney play. It just made the day
What a day.
complete. Yeah.
And what a show. He played 3 hours straight for a 75-year-old man. Didn't even take a sip of water.
Yeah.
He just rocked it the whole time.
Showtime was in Syracuse that night.
Energy. What a great energy.
Yeah, we played the Blue Spruce, and I believe that after the show, Doug Moncrief, God rest his soul, came to watch us play
Oh,
for the
cool.
first time and came up and jammed and
Yep.
got to use. It's very, very rare that a guitar player comes to see the band, and I get very excited because then they get to play my stuff and I get to watch the band, which
And see what it sounds like.
yeah, and I love that. I love watching other people play my rig, and like I get jazzed about it. So, he got up and played like a couple Stevie Ray songs, and it was just really cool to watch. And
Such a
get to know him,
magnificent guy. He's
Yeah.
just an incredibly talented.
Yep.
Just you talk about somebody just another guy with amazing talent and just so humble.
So humble,
And-
yes. And he was just, I was so happy that I only knew him for, God, less than a year, I think, before he was gone. And it was he makes you feel like you've known him for 30 years, even if, like, the first time you meet him. It's like he treats you like you're his greatest friend in the world, you know?
Yeah.
That's really cool. Not many guys like that.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, this is a perfect segue into asking Mark our weekly questions
Yep.
that we have.
Yep,
We have
yep.
a weekly question on here every week for the local musicians. So it is Local Music Monday. And shout out to everybody on Facebook watching right now. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Joe Boogie. Hi, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Also, John Caprero was saying that album was put out by Tower Records and great album. Thank you. Everybody out there in Facebook land, click the share button. Help spread the word of Local Music Monday, EC Radio, Disruption Network, Showtime, all the great
Network.
vibe that's going on here in the studio. But Mark, here's the question that we have every week for our guests every Monday. If we were to start a local music hall of fame, which I think we are seriously really going to get the wheels in motion on this thing, because I've talked to a couple people and people are like, you talk about it every week, we got to get
Yeah.
this done. So I think we're going to get it done.
Beautiful.
Anyways, if you were on the committee, who would be like your first induction class? Local Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I in a lot of ways, I really don't feel qualified to answer that, but I will answer it.
Okay.
Because there's so many guys that I know by reputation but never saw back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm actually hearing some of them now. If you've been following Bob Aquaviva, putting
Oh,
all
for
of his
sure.
Ak
Oh, yeah.
Rock recordings on YouTube.
Every day he's killing it.
It's, I was like, wow! All the stuff was going on under my nose. I never knew it.
Right.
But I mean, one guy that comes to mind definitely from personal experience is John Liebing. I mean, and he's probably been mentioned before by other guests, but for a guy who's done it as long as he has and as well as he has and as prolifically as he has, he's probably making more music now than he ever had. He's pumping out CDs like crazy.
Speaking of
and they're
Ak Rock,
good.
yeah. Speaking of Ak Rock, I'm Through Here. I think is probably one of my most favorite albums of all time. Like hands down. Like in the mix with everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just well produced. I mean, well written. Every song on it is incredible.
That
I
should have
covered 2
sold a
songs.
million copies.
Yeah,
it should have.
It should have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, which album is that?
I'm Through Here.
Is that Liebing?
Yeah, that's Liebing. That's his. That was his. Like he really would pull out all the stops to try to, do something with it. You know what I mean? Like it was going to be his last, try for,
Yep.
getting it there or whatever. But I mean, he brought in everybody to play on that, and I covered two songs off of that. I cover.
Do you?
There's a blizzard in my head. That one. All the logical thoughts are. I can't think of names, but What If This Is the Last Time, which is also one of my favorite songs of all time, hands down. So I'm interrupting, but I had to throw that out there because we were just talking about Ak Rock, and you bring up John Liebing, and that's immediately what I think of because that was recorded at Ak Rock.
Yeah.
And Lenny Milano Sr. plays drums on it.
Speaking of another guy that would be
Yeah.
on my list, yeah, and Bob Aquaviva,
Yeah.
just for everything he has done. He's not only as a musician but as a producer and engineer and everything else.
Solid list.
Yeah,
Bob's done a lot
that's
too.
the problem with it, with that sort of thing. You could sit here and you could name 25 people easily.
You can. Yeah, and we're gonna make this happen too.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm meeting on this week about it.
Really?
Yeah, I'll talk to you about it after the show. I don't want.
I'd put Justin Smithson on that.
He's
list.
gonna.
come on now.
We figured he's probably in the 4th class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
He's
know
a
who's
little young. Yeah, he hasn't been out 5 years.
Fourth class. I would put myself in like the 12th. I mean, I can think
Yeah.
of. We have to split up the first class into like 12 different.
I'm inducting you before I'm inducting Moyer.
Oh, don't. I hope
kidding.
he's not. I hope he's not watching right now. Oh,
It's the Tim Moyer Show, by the way. Tim Moyer is the unofficial sponsor of Local Music Monday, so we got to give him a shout out like we do every week.
See, and the Moyer boys, the three of us all went to Madison Central School.
You watched them grow up, huh?
Well, they were a lot younger, but oh yeah, I remember their dad well too.
Yeah.
Sure, from being a Madison fella.
He's a good man.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Jeff Adderman. I meant to ask about this too. He says, "So glad you're feeling better."
Oh,
And so I meant to say that as well. It's nice to see you
thanks.
out and about.
it's good to be out and
Yeah,
about.
for sure.
You've had a rough year, huh?
Yeah. You never know. When something is going to hit you and knock you for a loop. We all think we're invincible.
It's
right?
true, man.
So, but no, thanks, Jeff. I'm feeling much better.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're taking care of yourself, eating right and dieting and stuff.
Trying to.
Trying to.
Yeah. As much as you could have done over the holidays.
Right.
And it's hard with the area that we live in because we have so much great food
Oh
to
yeah.
indulge in.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So much great food, bro.
That's for
Yeah,
sure.
that's for sure.
Jeff, I just did a shout out to him. Jeff played a gig with Plastic Soul once.
Did he?
Yeah, we played outdoors at Celtic Harp. When there was one fall
yeah.
night, I remember it being cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played. He wanted to play. He wanted to play Revolution and all those rooftop songs. That had the piano on it.
Yep.
And
Fifth Beatle.
yeah, and Jeff and his wife were so good to us too. I remember we were rehearsing for a show at the Stanley, and he opened up, his recording studio on Genesee Street to us to rehearse, and just. He's always been there with Plastic Soul and done so much for us. Great guy,
Oh,
great
absolutely.
musician.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We got to give a shout out to Dave Borgia, too. He's saying, what's up? And he wants to know if you're still using that Boss EQ.
Yes, Dave. I bought I'm convinced now that everybody needs an EQ on their pedal board. I only have 6 spaces on mine, and the Boss EQ occupies a prominent space on it. What do you think about it? Do you have an EQ on your
I
pedal
used
board?
to. As a matter of fact, it was a trick that Bobby Aquaviva showed me years and years ago. He goes, "Here, take this," and he hands me a Boss EQ, and he goes, "Don't touch any of these knobs." He goes, "Just see that button or the knob at the end, it says volume." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Turn that up a little bit." I go, "Okay." I turn it up a little bit. I hit it, instant clean boost.
Yep.
I was like, "All right, I got a boost. I got a boost pedal." I mean, I could have just bought a boost pedal, but hey, all right, I'll do whatever you want me to do. But now, currently, I don't have an EQ pedal. I want one, but the one that I want is I don't think they make it anymore, and it's really expensive. So
Yeah.
it's more like a preamp EQ type thing.
EQ is one of those things too. It's nice to have on your pedal board if you're doing gigs where you're, if you're flying in somewhere or going someplace where there's a back line already there and you don't have your amp set that the EQ can
Really do some stuff, yeah.
fix a lot of things for you in a pinch. Yeah,
You don't have your amp, but bring your pedal, right?
that's right.
It's
That's right.
makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
Johnny Caprero checking in. He's saying Danny Holmes would be on his Hall of Fame list.
Danny Holmes.
Another great choice.
Danny Holmes. Just every name inspires a story, but
Right.
Yeah.
Danny Holmes played with us at the Stanley. He played with
That's
us.
right.
Played with us actually the last 2 gigs Plastic Soul ever played. He came up to Syracuse with us, and played at Shifty's with us.
Wow.
And it was that last gig we did as a 4-piece with Danny in it, and he had played with us once before. We did a gig down in Orlando, and he lived not too far from there. So I think Liebing called up Danny and said, why don't you come play with us tonight? And he looked over the set list and he says, yeah, I can do this. I said, run home and get your guitar. So we had played for 3,000 people that night at Orlando, the Orange County Convention Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
We did that gig after you guys.
Yeah.
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 Flew down to Florida, Orlando for McDonald's corporate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What a
you
great
guys
gig.
did a couple of those, right? Didn't you do one in Chicago too?
We did 2 in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
1 in suburban Philadelphia, and 1 in Orlando.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Tim Fenton. Man,
Exactly.
what a great
our
person.
good friend. Yeah.
Yeah, very good friend. And yeah, he did. He flew you guys out, flew Showtime out to some gigs out in Chicago there for him. And
How awesome
we
is
did one
that?
in Orlando. It was great. It was awesome. I mean, I can't even explain. I mean, just you feel like a rock star because you get picked up from the airport in a limo.
Yep.
Driven to the hotel. I mean, it's like it was just
It is. You get
insanity.
spoiled.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that hotel. You walk through that hotel, and it's just like you're like, I think I could live here for the rest of my life, and then just go play in one of their
What am
one
I
of their
doing here? Type of
things.
thing.
You know,
right?
like it was just. But that convention center. Remember how big that was?
It was huge, and what they did for that party, and they had a recreation of the Volkswagen Beetle that was on Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
And they hired like live models to dress up as the Beatles and stand around this Volkswagen they had parked in the middle of our show.
Wow.
It was no expense was spared.
No.
And Tim was in. That was his party. And because he was the chief operating officer of McDonald's Corporation worldwide, at the time, and he said, "I want this," because there were some other parties going on in the convention. He said, "This is going to be the talk of the convention. This party," and it was.
Was definitely.
And I saw Tim. My son and I went. Who's a guitarist, a great player. Flew down to Fort Myers last. A year ago, December, and played a Christmas party for one of his new company down there.
Sure.
And just a fabulous guy, and a real benefactor of music. I mean, if there's a musician around here, Tim probably knows him. He's tight with Liebing and with Paul Case. And, and
He's a local
Billy
guy?
Davidson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went to school in Whitesboro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The local guy that's done
And
good.
he started as a fry guy in, was it Herkimer McDonald's, or did he start in the Whitesboro McDonald's?
Yeah.
I think it was one of the McDonald's. He started out, and his first job was making French fries.
Wow.
And then he retired as COO of McDonald's.
Yeah, we went out to see his office in Chicago, and showed me this gold thing on the desk. He says, "Yeah, we got that from the Sultan of Brunei."
Yeah.
It was. So I can't imagine how much that piece of art is worth. I mean, it was just crazy. But it was a real fun time.
Yeah, and you get to see like all this stuff. Like we went to Hamburger University, which I'm sure you did. And Hamburger University, like you only see this in like documentaries about McDonald's and like different things where like Ray Kroc's office, they have it like a recreated. Like, and we get to see that in person, which is really cool. And like, unless you go to Hamburger University, which is an accredited college, by the way.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. You can get like you go to school to be, for any job that they offer there. Especially, I think all their corporate, all the people that work for corporate and like all their bigger, higher up positions all have to go there and take business classes,
Right.
and all that different stuff. And they have their own accredited university.
What was interesting out there? I thought the most interesting thing about Hamburger University was the test kitchens.
Yes.
So they got a laboratory and all this where they test and what color should we make this, and does this taste? And they bring in test subjects. So they have looks like a study carrel that you'd see in a library or something. So you go in this room, you sit down at a desk, the table's white, there's a light above you, and this door opens up in front of you, and they slide some food at you, and then they ask you to rate it. How does it look appetizing and all this stuff. Then they'll change the color of the lights, the nature of the lights. Does it look any better? Does it look more appetizing now?
Right.
And it's just amazing the work that goes into all that and the studies and the science.
Yeah. When he picks you up too, like I don't know if he did this with you, and he came to pick us up in his car to bring us to Hamburger University, and it's like. Part of me thinks like Tim is such a funny guy because I mean you would never know if you just saw him walking down the street. You'd never know like because he just looks like us. He doesn't flash anything, But I think that he was just looking to kind of show off a little bit, So he brings us into Hamburger University and we go into his. They all had their private drive-in parking garage like underground.
Tim's probably watching this, by the way.
I know, I'm sure he is. And
Hi, Tim.
but he went he brought us underground. I mean, I was just like awestruck. I mean, he has the ability to be the most humble individual I've ever met in my life. But at the same time, you feel like you're in the presence of a rock star when you're with this guy because just the way he's a very confident person. He carries himself like that. But you're like, there's not a damn thing that this guy could ever do wrong. ever. Everything he touches is like amazing, and it's like, and he holds the best parties. He holds the best. I mean, everything he does, he could take a party for 4 people and make it like the greatest party you've ever been to in your life.
Yeah. It just makes you feel so welcome.
Absolutely.
Troy and I stayed at his house in Fort Myers when we went down there to play, and it was, it could not have been, treated more hospitably and wonderfully, and it's been a real pleasure to get to know him over the years. But you mentioned Hamburger. One more quick story about Tim, and we did the same thing. We were playing. This was in Chicago, Oak Brook.
Yep.
Yes, and so we drive up to the entrance to Hamburger University, and so 3 of us and Tim, and it's like Saturday, nothing. It's closed. There's a security guard there, kind of. Tim knocks on the door. And it's like, oh, Mr. Fenton.
Right? Yeah.
Yes,
Spills his coffee everywhere.
He shit his pants.
I know, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing here on a Saturday?
Yeah, that was hilarious. But yeah, great times.
Hilarious.
Yep.
Hey, Mark, have you ever thought about starting a band with your sons?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of have in a way. I gig with my son Troy, my oldest, who's he's a first-year law student at SU, first-year law school. Yeah.
Excellent.
And
Following in your footprint.
yes, I tried to talk him out of it to no avail, but yeah, he's just a great. He's into Dave Matthews and all that, and plays all these alternate tunings and crazy things. And I look at it and I said, I can't do that. And he also plays the drums very well, and is an excellent piano player.
Wow.
So he's my jack of all trades. If I need somebody on a recording or something, Troy come in, he can do it all.
Wow.
And my son Luke is in Utica College at the moment in grad school, becoming a doctor of physical therapy. He's in his second of that 3-year grad program. He plays the guitar and piano very well. And he's one of those guys that sets his mind to something and just goes at it. He went from 0 to 100 miles an hour with a guitar in just a matter of months.
Wow.
I've never seen anybody become so proficient at the instrument so quickly.
Wow.
And my youngest son, Noah, he's also a pretty accomplished guitar player. And he has a guitar in his hand at every moment. So he's
great.
headed to grad school in the fall. So got everybody. And as I said, we got the drum set there, got bass guitars. And so anybody who stops over, we can put on a jam session in a moment's notice.
Oh, that's great.
We got to go to Mark's house one day. We're just
Yeah.
gonna come
You're
crash the
welcome
party.
to.
Yep.
Come crash the party and
welcome
jam out.
to.
It'd be like the Partridge Family over there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Minus the girls.
Yeah.
John Capero, Z, what do you think about older dudes like Mike Carlotta and Andy Cittadino? Andy in the Classics, right? I remember Andy in the Classics for sure. I think that's where and if we get this local music Hall of Fame up and rolling, I think we need to go back into, because there was such a great jazz scene back in the day.
Oh, my God, yeah.
In the Chitlin circuit. And then you're talking about a lot of these older cats that were playing not only on the jazz scene, but there was another band that kind of was really popular from like the late 60s, right? That popped up. The name slips my mind
what
right
genre?
now. Just like in a pop kind of pop.
Well, I mean, wasn't the Gleamy band around for a long time? Holiday? They were around for years.
Another
I mean,
one.
It's another one though.
There's another one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's another one there. Yeah, Holiday. I mean, that's just another family right there. That was just outstanding. I
Yeah.
mean, they all were great, and I do miss Eugene Yodge working on all of our amps. I mean, that was
genius.
what an absolute. I mean. You go, and I think that he was in before he retired. He was in Lenny Bonamassa's old place, right? Because that used to be Bank Place Guitars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or was
Yeah.
that down the street? And Yodge has always been there. I can't
No,
remember.
I think he's always been there.
You think he's always been there?
Yeah.
But then Bank Place was a couple doors up. Gotcha.
That was the last place I saw him, was on Bank Place, and
Yep.
then one day I stopped there and he wasn't there anymore, and then I used to use George too at New Hartford.
George,
Radio
he was such a great man. He helped me through so much.
Yeah.
George, God bless his soul. Eric and the Chessmen. Thank you, Johnny Caprio, for Eric and the Chessmen is the
Royals,
one.
the Frogs.
The Royals, the Frogs.
Yep.
I mean, that first class is going to be stacked.
Oh yeah.
And then it wouldn't even be scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's going to be so hard because, like, I mean, obviously, our first 3 or 4 classes are going to be like they all could be members of the first class. So,
Right.
you know, that's going to be a really hard one to pick. Like, who is going to be the first class? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you know, it's I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm excited. I'm
Me too.
excited to meet about it, to talk about it, and to get it going.
I want to get this rolling.
Yep.
I really do. Because we need to show some love to the local music scene, and not only the local music scene, but pay homage to the guys that came before everybody
Yep.
else.
Yeah.
You know, if Syracuse has got one, we should have one too.
Yeah, I mean, and they were all inspirations for, you know, everybody growing up. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm sure that you had bands that, when you grew up that you gained, you know, inspiration from.
Oh,
and,
sure.
And I want to see what that guy's playing. I want to see what, you know,
Yeah.
what he's got, and get, you know, from where I can from him and learn this. And you know, I still feel like that because I feel like we're still the kids. You know, I'm going to be 40 this year, and I still feel like, and we still get called the kids.
You've had that band since you're what, 16?
13 I started.
13.
Yeah,
wow.
with Jose and Joe. Yep.
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
1994. That's
incredible.
We started playing together, and but
You're going to have to be the backup band for when it's time to have everybody come up to jam.
I
You know
am
that,
totally
right?
okay with that.
You're gonna
like,
have
you know, I want to be that guy. Like I've always told my wife, I said I never wanted to make it big. I said, but I want to be like you look on every award show, and Kenny Arnoff's playing drums for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you know, this guitar player's playing guitar for everybody. You know what I mean? I want to be that guy, and I want to be in the studio, and I want to be recording albums, and I want to be that guy.
You're right there of being
know?
that guy. You're like
But-
right there, dude.
That's what I mean. I would love to do that. Like I want to go on a tour once in my life. You know what I mean? I've always wanted to do something like that. Doing the thing for Tim Fenton was like the closest that I mean. I felt like I was on tour. I
Yeah.
got to fly on a plane. I got to get picked up in a limo.
Got pampered.
Yeah.
That's what I always said. I remember growing up, I said, just one time, I want to fly into a gig, get picked up by a limousine, taken to a nice hotel, go to the gig, have all the gear set up there, and just get on the stage and play.
Yep.
And I've gotten to do it like 4 times.
4 times,
It's-
right?
I
Yeah.
mean, it's,
Yeah.
How cool is that?
yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah. The only thing I was missing was a guitar tech. I
Yeah.
would love one of those. That'd be great. Because then I could really bring all my guitars and not worry about it.
There you go.
I had a guitar tech, Steve Warzala. I love that dude. Which, by the way, Steve Warzala is a great dude. We did the 20th anniversary show for Showtime.
Yeah.
And Joey and I were the only ones that were going to be on stage the entire time. Everybody else got to leave, and you know they had breaks and stuff. And so I'm like, if we want to keep this rolling along, I actually needed a guitar tech. I was like, so Steve, he says, I'll do it for nothing. You don't have to pay me anything. I'm like, whatever, I'll pay you. But I had him set up on the side of the stage with a table. I had like a little Boss guitar amp that he
Yeah.
could use, and like he set up all my gear. He changed all the strings on every guitar player that we had. So like, well, Ben couldn't be there, so it was Mike and I. He changed all of our guitar strings before the show, made sure everything was in tune, brought us our guitars, plugged them in, like the whole thing. And it was like,
Awesome.
I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm on the showroom stage. I have a guitar tech. Come on.
The
you
only
know?
time I ever really needed a guitar pack, it was one night when we were playing at the Electric Company, and in the middle of a set, and they had multiple guitars you could go to, but one of my Gretches broke a string on it in the middle of a song. So and it was a packed house that night, I remember, and I'm like, oh geez, you know, because I really want to use this guitar later. So I'm looking around. I looked to the left of the stage, and Jeff Moyer's standing there. So I said, Jeff. I said, you know, I was thinking, there's a guitar player. There's somebody who could help me.
Yes.
Somebody knows his
Jeff,
shit.
Jeff, come over. I said, can you change the string on this thing quick for me, please? And I said, there's strings right in the case there and all that stuff. And it just so happened, it was, I think it was like his, I don't know what number it was, or I can't even remember how old Jeff is now, but I don't know if it was his, you know, it was his birthday party anyway.
Oh, so he was shit-faced.
Yeah,
boy.
yeah. So finally, so I get done and I turn around and he says, Mark, I can't do this. I said, that's okay. You know, yeah. That was. I still remind him of that story.
That's a great story. In fact, Tim Moyer's laughing about that right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's lots of good Jeffrey stories, that's for sure.
Oh, that's a good one.
I was just going to tell you, on the Beatles subject. I mean, post Plastic Soul. I thought that my Beatles career might be over, but it ended up picking up through the offices of Paul Davey. Called up and got me involved with this music collective in Syracuse called Beetlejuice.
Wow.
And it's just about all Syracuse area musicians, except we're starting to get a couple of Mohawk Valley guys in there. Lenny Milano has participated in the last couple, and there's a young fella down in the valley you may know, Chris Cooley.
Oh yeah.
Very well.
Yeah, we know. We were just talking about him last week.
Yeah, very well.
Great kid. It's the same age as my oldest son, and the two of them have become friends too.
Yeah.
And he's just a phenomenal guitar player, good kid, great family, and
Great sound guy.
Amazing sound engineer.
Great
really,
ear.
really good.
One of the best around.
Yep.
I noticed during Christmas break, because he goes to OCC, and I was up in Syracuse and stopped into Guitar Center, and he was working there over Christmas break.
Really?
So yeah, that's a heck of a commute, from Ilion to DeWitt every day. But,
Yeah. I did it when I worked for Apple. That was just brought me back to horrible memories for
Commuting all the
six
time.
years of commuting. It's just
And when Lenny came in to work on these Beatles songs, I'm telling you, he is a machine.
Oh, yeah.
And
He's a clock.
And he studied these songs.
Yeah.
He do well. At such a 2 minutes and 53 seconds. There's he hits the tom. This with his left hand. I mean, these details just
detail-oriented.
came pouring out.
Go ahead.
You know what I'm going to say?
Go ahead, do it.
Everybody's got
Go
a
ahead,
Lenny
do
Milano
it.
impression.
Let me
Yeah.
hear it.
Well, the thing is that 2 minutes and 53 seconds on the White Album. Not the original release, but the 2013 remastered version. I picked up on the snare hit that was right hand first. I could tell just by the way he was hitting it. But everybody's got a Lenny impression, which we all love him so much because like you said, he's extremely detail oriented. Anybody would be blessed to have him in the band,
which makes him perfect for the Beetlejuice project, because the way that's set up, we have we put on a show. We'll do the whole album, do the whole Abbey Road album from beginning to end.
Wow.
All parts played. With orchestras or what we got violin players sitting over.
It's involved.
Whatever you need, and we have one rehearsal. So once you get your assignments, you got an idea what you're going to do. Everybody's woodshedding, at home, and Lenny is perfect for that because it's all about making it. It's not what the Beatles sound like live. No, we're trying to reproduce the record.
The record, right? And it's amazing how many people that you have to actually use to get what they had on those albums.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you wonder why you never saw them tour as the Beatles later on. You know what I mean? They stopped after a while, and they only did that one rooftop performance. That was the first performance they had done in how many years?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was their
since
last
66,
and it was their last performance. But they legit could not perform the music that they were creating. There was orchestras. They were just they playing on these albums, all these different instruments, sitars. At the same time that George Harrison's playing guitar, he's putting in a sitar part. He's doing all this other stuff, and it's incredible to think. Now, do you guys actually have somebody to play sitar if needed?
Yes, we had a sitar player because we did the Sgt. Pepper album.
Yeah.
And I don't know where Paul found these guys, but he brought them in, and they were wearing Indian robes and sitting cross-legged on the floor, and did Within You, Without You.
Amazing.
So cool.
But as
Amazing.
you drill down into these albums, I've been listening to these guys since 1966, and you think you know stuff, but you really don't.
Nope.
And it wasn't until the last year when we were doing the entire White Album up at the Coloca Estate Winery on Lake Ontario, and we're doing songs.
Is it time?
No, I forgot to shut my ringer off. I'm sorry.
So we're doing back in the USSR. So I called Paul Davey or to message him or something. I said, there's 2 bass guitars on that. There's a couple songs on that album that have 2 bass guitars.
Wow.
McCartney's playing one part with his Hofner, and he's playing another part with his Rickenbacker. Just crazy stuff because you play these songs out and you say, well, I thought I was doing everything
Yeah,
right here. Why doesn't it
something's
sound
missing, yeah,
right?
yep.
You know, and it's those little things. It's
I didn't know
crazy.
that.
Yeah, but the point is that every time we do one of these productions, and like Abbey Road, we've done a couple of times now.
Yeah.
Every time you do something and revisit it, you find out something new about the
Yeah.
music that you didn't know the last time.
That just speaks volumes to the genius of the Beatles. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It really does. I mean, they were just
On a whole nother level, especially back then.
Well, they weren't afraid to try anything. That was the thing. You go, what do you mean, you idiot? 2 bass guitars on a song? They didn't mind trying that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, they got the rubber soul. And somebody, threw a capo in the studio. The Beatles had never seen a capo before. You listen to the Rubber Soul, almost every song on that album uses a capo somewhere. Almost everyone. I won't say everyone. But, and McCartney even used one on his bass for Michelle.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Crazy. Who would have thunk?
Have you heard a K-Value leader guitar? John Caparos check in and says it's my dad. It's a 1961 model, and he's had Justin play it before.
Yes, I have played it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the K, his K guitar.
What's up with the guitar? Is it? It's a different
61.
model?
It's
Yeah.
1961. Yeah, it's a K. Yeah, the K value leader guitar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a vintage.
Oh yeah. Like I said, 1961.
Obviously 61.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me vintage, too. That's the year I was born.
You're not vintage. You're classic.
That's
you're
a better word
classic,
for
Mark,
it, yeah.
for sure. Do we expect any live performances? Maybe after COVID is all done from you? Are you going to be out and about? Or
It looks like I'm not at liberty to release any details now, but
Okay.
it looks like the Beetlejuice people may live to ride again.
Yeah,
in the
all
coming
right.
year.
Cool.
So we'll. Oh wow,
That's
that's
the
nice.
the K value leader guitar.
Yeah.
So everybody could see at home.
oh wow.
See that?
Here, hang on. Let me put it on you for real quick there, Justin. Give me a second. Stupid computer day.
All right.
That's the K value leader.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
It's 1961. Yeah, it's a very nice guitar.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Nice. So hopefully Beetlejuice will be up and rolling.
Well, in some form, and there are subsets of people, and we're always talking to each other. So I'm hoping something comes of it. And
Yeah.
I
Sounds
think
like a
everybody's
fun
looking
project.
forward to getting back to playing. It's
Indeed.
been
Absolutely.
a while. Yeah.
It has been a while. It's been great catching up with you today, Mark.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
likewise.
Is
Thanks
there
so
anything
much
you
for
can
having
plug?
me.
You want to plug anything? You got like streaming? You want to plug your legal service or any of that? Or
Hey, it's like I ran into a cousin of mine who was up from Maryland for a funeral this past weekend, and I see him. He says, "I don't even need to talk to you. I know everything you're doing from Facebook." So I probably do enough plugging as it is. But and David Longaretta, one of my favorite people and
Oh, yeah, mine too.
colleagues here, and
Yeah.
great guy, and I'm glad he's sponsoring your show.
No, he's
here.
been keeping me out of trouble for a long time.
Oh,
so-
good. I'm sure he has.
He's a good man for sure. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming to hang out with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good to see you.
You're playing tonight, right?
Tonight, yeah, for Telos.
For Telos?
Frankfurt, yep.
You by yourself or?
Sean. Yeah, we're on the Poor Tim tour. We played yesterday. We did a Sunday Fun Day at that new Station 233 bar up in Westmoreland.
Okay.
Which was the old Seymour's Diner, Seymour's Barbecue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, same people own it. And Thursday, Sean and I will be at Dick Smith's.
Awesome.
So
Good.
Yeah.
Maybe Sean one day will come grace us with his presence.
I like to think so, but he works now.
Oh, right.
And,
He's a working
so
man.
he's a working man now. So 2:30 is just not work for him. So maybe we'll have to tape his show or something.
Yes. We should
Everybody
mention.
else takes time out of their day. I
Yeah,
don't
for
know
sure.
why
I mean,
he
we could
can't.
get Mark to come down. We
I
could
know.
get Sean to come down, but he's too big for us.
And I love your T-shirt, by the way, Z.
Thank you. A friend of mine gave this to me. John Liebing, you've heard of him?
Yes, I've heard of him.
I call him the champ, the bubble hockey champ.
Yeah.
Wasn't he the bass player in plastic? No, he was a drummer.
Drummer, that's right. Maybe one day we could get John Liebing on the show.
Yeah, you got a better chance of seeing God.
I'll go pick him up and bring him down.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
there you go.
We got so many great stories to tell.
Oh.
And then one day he told me, he's like, I'll come down if you could get a bubble hockey table. And guess what? I scored a bubble hockey table.
you really?
Because Masucci's got one sitting in his garage.
You gotta
I'm like,
set it up.
We'll set it up. We'll put it right here. We'll play bubble hockey
We
till
could
the cows
set up
come home.
awesome like camera angles and stuff, so if everybody could watch at home. when you guys do like, oh yeah, I got it. I got it.
Hilarious.
He was such a fun guy to play with because you
Oh, yeah.
never knew what he was going to do. You never knew what he was going to say. And I would get laughing, during gigs before. I mean, so hard I was crying.
Right.
I mean, he would just do the craziest things.
Yep.
But he's one of those guys, and I played with him for 11 years. I never heard him sing a bum note.
Nope. You won't.
And I can't say that about anybody else I know. His musical mind and his.
I truly
sense.
believe he has perfect pitch.
Yeah.
I really do. And I mean, and if you ever watch him play, you could, if you played a drinking game with how many times he'll tune in the middle of a song, you would literally be hammered by the third song. Because legit, I mean, he'd start playing a song and you hear him go, and he'll switch this. And, I mean, like 5 times a song. And it's like, it's incredible. But I mean, it's legit painful for him when stuff is out of tune, which another reason why you don't see a lot of people get up and play with him because it's, he just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super talented. Though.
Yes, he is.
Super talented. But
John
one-
was a great guy to play with because I remember when we first started rehearsing, and it was a good thing that I could take criticism because I played some song or whatever, and John says, I don't like the way you sing that. I said, okay. I said, how do you want me? He says, sing it like this. So I sang it like that. He said, there you go. He was right. Made the song better. And the other thing was when the first time that we went to his place to rehearse, I showed up there and through neglect or whatever, I got out to play the guitar. I said, oh, geez, I wish I'd cut my nails, So I went in I had some nail clippers in my truck, and I went out and I was walking. He says, can you go over there and do that? I look at Smales, he's dying laughing.
oh, yeah.
Oh my God, you're just a funny guy.
Never a dull moment when he's around.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, hysterical.
For sure.
Maybe one day we'll get him on the show,
Yeah,
Justin.
someday.
One of these days. Right on. Well, thanks again for
Yes,
hanging out
thank
with
you,
us.
Mark.
If you're out there in Facebook land, click the share button, and you can follow along on YouTube and all the Disruption Network social medias. And thank you to EJA Moving Services, Dave Longaretta, attorney Dave Longaretta, Utica Coffee, and Saranac Brewery. I will be back on Wednesday, where my guest is Roy Costin coming to join me. So I'm looking forward to chopping up with him. Another guy that should probably make the list in the local Music Hall of Fame and put him on the ballot. Probably,
We
maybe.
should probably get him in for an interview too. I mean, but that has to be later on now since you got him coming in on Wednesday.
Yeah,
So.
we're trying not. Oh, and also we got to mention March 29th too.
Yes, March 29th.
We're having a festival here.
Ooh, and if you and Troy would like to come down and play a song or two, that would be kind of cool.
There you go.
What's going on?
Well, we're having it's our 1 year anniversary in March, and the 29th we're gonna basically open this whole thing up, and have like all we're asking musicians to do is bring their own microphone and their own guitar. And come and play a couple songs. There can be some food, some drinks. Just gonna be hanging out. Do a little, side interview for a couple minutes, and out you go, like whatever.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
And it's all going to be to benefit the Stephen Swan Humane Society.
Awesome.
So we're going to have like a little link you could click on, and people could donate some money and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
excellent.
We'd
that's
love to have you guys.
Yeah,
love
we're
to
going
come.
from noon to 3 o'clock. We're
Yep,
gonna have
noon to 3.
we're gonna have a 3-hour shebang, if it will. So
Sounds
I'm looking
great.
forward to doing
Yes.
that. So March
Starts
29th.
to roll.
So far, who do we got? Mark Macri.
Yep, Mark Macari's gonna
Shout
come
out
play.
Mark Macri.
Yep.
Max Sheldon,
Max is gonna play. Yeah.
Jay Schnitt.
Yep.
And
Did you
then
say
there's
that's a Saturday?
it's no,
Sunday.
it's
Or
a
Monday.
Monday. Yeah,
Sunday. Jeez, what am I thinking?
Sunday. No, it's a Monday.
Sunday.
There's one more. I'm forgetting somebody.
Probably poor Tim. I mean, we'll
You're always in, and there's
I'll
one
probably
other
play
one.
it.
But yeah, so far we've got 4 or 5 artists right now
Yeah.
that are already scheduled to play. So it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Awesome. March 29th. Put it on your calendars right here on the D. Little special tribute to the local musicians, Local Music Monday, all to benefit the Stephen Swan Humane Society. So looking forward to doing
Hooray.
that. Yeah, hooray. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. And I will see you on Wednesday. Later.